Hi, and welcome back to Loose Talk. Today's episode is going to be, well, I'm still in sort of a phase of experimentation with this whole concept of having a podcast slash DJ set thing to accompany my musical releases. But for this episode, I think I'm going to try and maybe make it a little more concise. I've also got a different theme for this episode. So today, well, I guess I should start with where the concept began. In my latest song, Could I Stay Here, the one that I just released very recently, I think you would have to listen to the song a couple of times to really be able to hear it, but there is actually vibraphone in the track. It's sparsely sort of in the song. But it's just sort of like a textural thing it's like a layer on some of the guitars, right? The electric guitars. So I thought, essentially, my sort of I'm sort of making an indictment on music to some degree. Not really, but like sort of. I think that vibraphone is a very underused instrument in certain genres. Not a lot of rock music or rock adjacent or even pop music in general include that instrument, and I guess it's because I would have to assume it's because it's more of like a pit or like a symphony sort of, that's where you would typically find that sort of instrument, and so maybe it's a little bit left field for those genres. But there are a couple of bands in those that don't fit squarely in those genres, but that have essentially inspired me to include that in my own music. And so, yeah, you can hear it in the song I just released. And I guess I just wanted to play some of those songs, some of the music that has those textures in it, or that particular texture. As far as I can tell, anyway, there's definitely one song on this list that I couldn't find the information that I wanted to, as far as what the arrangement and like the composition consists of. But to me, it always sounded like a vibraphone. So I thought, what the hell? I'm gonna just throw it in the mix, and if I'm wrong, great, I'm wrong. Learn something new. Could very well just be a really nice sounding Wurlitzer or some sort of, I don't know. I'm not really sure. But this first song is 100% definitely vibraphone. It's an amazing song. And it's a song by a band called Copeland. Now, I've been listening to Copeland probably since I was 14 or something like that. I was introduced to them through, different people at like church that I used to go to. And, Aaron Marsh has become one of my favorite songwriters and producers, just in general, since, over the years. And there's one song in particular, or not one song, one album in particular that, I like all of their albums, but one album in particular that I feel is extremely underrated, produced by, or I guess co-produced by Matt Goldman, which, if you know who Matt Goldman is, then I don't need to say much about it. But if you don't know who that is, that's the guy. He's responsible for a lot of the greatest sort of early 2000s, like Tooth and Nail, Solid State sort of stuff, or bands that were sort of like adjacent to that scene. Like, I think when the record Eat, Sleep, Repeat, which is a Copeland record, that's the record that this song I'm about to play is off of. I think Copeland was signed to Columbia for a little bit when they made that record. But Matt Goldman, true like legend of the early aughts. If you can go from producing the Chariot, like the first Chariot EP, I think it's the first EP. I forget what the name of that record was, but it's got like Yanni Depp and stuff like that on it. If you can go from doing that to doing like a really sort of, I don't want to say avant-garde, maybe there are some avant-garde moments on the record, but mostly very jazz inspired and very I would say Beatles inspired at points, but in a really unique and like individualized way. Yeah, if you can go from producing the Chariot to doing something like that, then to me that's pretty freaking cool and great, and just give this guy his flowers. But so this song I'm about to play is by Copeland, and it's called Where's My Head. Hope you enjoy. Beautiful song, right? That's the intro to that record, and if that tells you anything, which it should tell you that the rest of the album is insane. But this next record or band, or all of the above, is by a band that I got into a little bit after Copeland. I'm honestly a little young to be so into this band. I think if we're just basing it off of generational sort of stuff, the people that really grew up when this band was becoming a thing and really getting their name out there on Vagrant Records, they would definitely say, like, oh, how you're a little young to be in that band, aren't you? And normally when people say that, I'd be like, well, I have the internet, so I'm not too old or too young to be into anything, really, am I? But the way that I found out about this band, I found out about them in the same way that I discovered Copeland, through someone that I went to church with. And actually, I think he gave me a copy of their biggest, most sort of lauded record. And that band is called the Get Up Kids. And ever since then, they've been one of my favorite bands ever. I think that, and I know I'm going to get shit for this, for any emo purists, but I think that they definitely, at least that record is one of the best, or one of the better emo records. It's very controversial in the purist emo sort of stratosphere. It would definitely put it, in my top 5 of emo records. And I'm talking about classic emo, pre-mall emo. This record came out in 97, when, emo wasn't about mascara or, Hey guys, so while I was editing this episode, I discovered that my computer, I guess while I was recording the audio into this here microphone, just decided to stop recording while I was talking about mall emo. And other than that, I don't remember anything else that I said, other than the song you're about to hear is Valentine by the Get Up Kids. Man, I mean, I'm not really sure if I said anything else very interesting or cool in that part of the episode, so not a big deal, I guess. But yeah, back to the show. This last song that I want to talk about is another. I mean, it's sort of one of those songs, or this style of music is always it was always such a ubiquitous sort of thing in the world that I never really paid attention to it. When I was younger, and so it took me a while to really be able to appreciate it, like the genius of it. As far as classic pop music goes, this is some of my favorite stuff. And
obviously a lot of the Motown stuff is some of my favorite stuff, but this group in particular was really, whenever I was at a point where I could truly appreciate it, like in every aspect, I was like, oh, this is some of like the best pop music ever. And that group is the Supremes. It's just such excellent music in every way. And I know that's probably a bit, I don't want to say cliche, but it's, what can I say that hasn't been said about Motown and the Supremes and all that stuff, Marvin Gaye, Sam Cooke, yada yada yada, but I just I really, it excites me how great that music is. And I was thinking, I was trying to figure out what is the last song, or what's a something a little bit off of the outside of the realm of what maybe people would assume that I'm into, that I could include in this episode that also has Vibraphone in it. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner, because Vibraphone is all over a lot of this, 60s pop music. I mean, that was in most of the Supremes tracks, or in a good majority of them, you're going to hear Vibraphone. And I love that, because I think that actually sort of explains, or probably explains, why when I listen to the Get Up Kids, I get that sort of, those sorts of vibes from it, you know, that spirit, or that sort of, I'm not sure how I would put it into a word, like cleanliness, or just like there's something about it, that record, that I also sort of feel when I listen to some of this Motown stuff, particularly the Supremes. There's a lot of great songs from them, but I really love this song in particular. I think the lyrics are, particularly if we're going to talk about the lyrics, they are obvious and not very clever or anything like that, but it just feels like such an honest delivery, the way that it's being sang. And along with the music and, you know, the arrangement and the composition and the way that the track builds with the dynamics of it, I just think it's a brilliant example of having limitations for yourself, right? And forcing yourself to be more creative because of your limitations. And, you know, I'm certainly not the first producer or musician to talk about that sort of thing. I know recently Rick Rubin has been on like a big PR thing because he put out a book or whatever, and, you know, he was on the Rogan show and all that stuff, and he talks a lot about that. All of the greats talk about how you have to put limitations on yourself. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling now about like stuff that's not necessarily, well, I guess it is kind of relevant, but nonetheless, I'm going to play this song, and if you don't appreciate this song already, hopefully my sort of dissertation on it, and then listening to it after that will, you know, help you gain an appreciation for it, along with, you know, Motown's entire roster. All of that was so important and so revolutionary. And I mean, look, this song, I don't know if it's this song in particular. It's another huge Supreme song. I mean, the chorus, it's just like some of those Beatles songs, some of those masterfully crafted Beatles songs. There's a Beatles song, there's a verse, bridge, there's a verse and a bridge, and I think the first chorus, within like the first 30 seconds of the song or something, or like before the 30-second mark, it's like, when you sort of break it down like that, in a way that is maybe a bit like rigidly analytical, I understand that it can feel a bit cynical, I guess, but it's also very interesting because that's called craftsmanship, right? And, you know, if you're very serious about being a creative person, then that's it, inevitably what you end up sort of getting into is the pursuit of being a great craftsperson. And so I think that's a big reason as to why I think this is so interesting and important, because it's such a great example of like brilliant craftsmanship. And yes, I know it's pop music. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it does have a place in the world and in our culture. Either way, here is Where Did Our Love Go by the Supremes. And thanks for watching. Definitely appreciate you being here. I hope you are getting something out of my recommendations and my sorts of my dissertations on them. Tune in next time. We'll have another episode out here very soon. And make sure you check out my newest single, Could I Stay Here? That's sort of the entire reason I'm doing this at all. So if you haven't checked it out, which I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably have, but hey, share it with a friend. Show your grandma. She'd love it. All right. Thank you and goodbye. Be sure to like and subscribe, and have a good one. See you later.